Meeting for December 12th, 2017. We will begin our meeting this morning. Chairwoman Steele is not available today, so I have the pleasure of chairing this meeting on her behalf. And just for order, in case I need to step out for any reason, Supervisor Nelson, would you like to act as a vice chair for this meeting?
I would love to.
Thank you. And so with that, we will now begin the public comment section of the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, we have 6.
Thank you. The admonishment that the comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The green light will be on, and when you have a minute left, the yellow light will come on. And there is a clock, the countdown clock on the screen in front of you. So I would ask that the speaker observe the time limits, please. Go ahead.
Duran, after David Duran, the next 3 speakers are Lou Noble, Michael Robbins, and Janine Robbins.
I'm here today because the dead cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so for them. I'm here today because it is apparent that today's entire Orange County Board of Supervisors continues to be maliciously and partially complicit in contributing to the deaths of approximately 200 human beings and residents of the Orange County homeless population. That number has been verified by the coroner. I'm here today because there's no justification or argument that could be justified or argued when the Orange County Board of Supervisors is documented by their actions to have spent millions of dollars to beautify a harbor, build new county offices, create shelters without ADA compliances, build new hotels and shops, maliciously target homeless by dumping rocks and building sandhills in the once homeless community, and by the board's increasingly inaccurate, negative, and hateful rhetoric, and by increasing county spending and resources to advance their war on homelessness through coercion, displacement, discrimination, and by targeted and increased criminalization of the homeless in this county. I'm here today because the dead cannot cry out for justice, and it is the duty of the living to do so for them. So please resign as soon as possible so that others more qualified can replace you in the name of justice and common good. And while you enjoy your time off between now and 2018, please remember that over 200 homeless have passed, including veterans, men, women, children. They're human beings. To your credit, I know that you've released state funds and federal funds, but you're still responsible to release discretionary funds, and you haven't released a penny. You're the ones who have to live with that, and we're the ones who have to suffer.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Put this on the camera, please. Change the camera. Okay. Thank you. I have something up here. Okay. Thank you. You know, we're not to judge. We could only assume because only God knows our heart. But I always meditate on the scriptures. This is what brings me. In Ezekiel 22:29 says, "The people of the land practice extortion and commit robbery. They oppress the poor and the needy and mistreat the foreigners, denying them justice." Okay, now, a homeless Native American woman got verbally abused while washing her blankets in a laundromat. While babysitting her grandkids, she was falsely arrested on Friday, December 8th, 2017. Her grandkids kidnapped, her dog put in the impound. Bad enough when I took her to pick up her dog, Shiloh, which is It's in the screen here. If you could put the screen, please. They were charging her $300 for one night stay. Okay, part of it was $108 just to give the dog back to her owner. You know, as they were going to charge her $300 because I was feeling very upset. They put it down to $269. That didn't make any changes in my feelings because this is extortion and not justified. This is just the beginning of a heartbreaking case. With the kids being kidnapped by authorities, families are now being separated, like Mr. Seglin's son, Nate, and now a mother is waiting to get her kids back. And as we know how the authorities drag their feet, we don't know when they're going to be together again. This is really, you know, like I said, God sees all. I cannot judge your hearts because He's the only one that could judge your hearts. But you have to have a conscience, and you have to do the right things. There is still no drainage in that facility, that the water dispenser. Only one bathroom, somebody sabotaged the water there. So, and it's been over 2 weeks.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
"'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the camp, all the poor people were up, because the ground was cold and damp. The potty buckets were placed near the tent with care, with the hope we would not die of disease that's not rare. The children were in the bushes to hide, with visions that someday they might live inside, while Mama in her tattered clothes and I in my rags tried to settle down in our worn sleeping bags. When there in the camp there rose such a clatter, I sprang from the ground to see what was the matter. I jumped from my bag and rushed to the door. The zipper was stuck, so I crawled under through the hole in the floor. The moon on the breast of the dirt on the ground gave the luster of another dirty night in our people pound, when what to my eyes should appear like a steeple, a police sled being pulled by 8 homeless people, with a red-nosed driver whipping them with a will. I knew in a moment it must be the homeless Chris Kill. Very fast he came on to our shame. The driver shouted, yelled, and called them by name. Now moron, now stupid, now addict, now lowlife and scum. On filth, on thief, on gay kid and bum. Up through the encampment he whipped them with his call. Now drag on, until you just fall. As slave trains do move, even though speed is slipping, when they met an obstacle, they moved faster with a little whipping. So up through the camp, the police sleigh moved through with a sled full of warrants and anti-camping tickets too. And then without warning, just stopped as if bored, I fell to my knees to pray to the Lord. Then he jumped from his sleigh and came up near me. He whipped out his very big bag that I could see. He was dressed in military gear with a baton and gun, and his shoes were all polished and shine like the sun. A bundle of tickets he had in his bag, and I prayed to the God he wouldn't give me a vacate tag. His eyes danced with joy, and he looked so merry. His face rolled with laughter, his nose like a cherry. He seemed to take delight in this dread midnight fright, with a writ from the BOS that gave him the right. He spoke not a word, but went right to his work, passing out anti-camping tickets to all, because he was a jerk. And pulling his gun, he fired 2 shots in the air, just to shock us, because he didn't care. He sprang to his police sleigh, his homeless team, then he whipped. And the sleigh dragged away, homeless slave team equipped. But I heard him exclaim, before he moved out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Here's some copies for...
Thank you.
The next 3 speakers after Janine Robbins are the cameraman, Ilya Seglin, and Robert Seglin.
Good morning. I would like to urge you to approve the extension for outreach performed by CityNet at the Santa Ana River Trail. It is very important to have an organization that is able to build a sense of trust with the homeless residents of the riverbed, and I believe that CityNet has been able to accomplish this. CityNet has reported that approximately 81% of the population is open to receiving services. It is necessary to maintain CityNet and the services that they offer, especially due to the latest increase in the riverbed population by Anaheim due to the inhumane evictions of the population in the Fountain Valley area. I know it's a stretch, but I would ask you to imagine that you are a homeless resident who has been living on the fringes of society, living on the banks of the riverbed, knowing that people detest you simply because you are unhoused, with no place to shower and no place to use a restroom. You have been victims of law enforcement in the past, with constantly being forced to move along, with belongings, including your pets, confiscated, as you just heard from Lou Noble. You have been jailed for nonsensical reasons, and now I want you to tell me if you would accept outreach from the sheriffs with their guns, their tasers, their clubs, and their handcuffs. I think not. It is imperative that you keep a non-law enforcement presence performing outreach among the homeless residents at the Santa Ana River Trail. Thank you.
Any more speakers, Madam Clerk?
No, we don't.
That concludes the public comment section of our meeting. We will now proceed to the agenda. Except as otherwise provided by law, no action shall be taken on any item not appearing in today's agenda.
Under Sheriff Coroner, receive and file status report and approve continuance of local emergency related to Theo Lacey facility for repair to inoperable elevator used for public, legal visits, and emergency egress for inmates. Set review to determine need for continuing local emergency for January 9, 2018, 9:30 a.m., and every regularly scheduled meeting thereafter until terminated. This item does require a 4/5 vote of the members present.
This is a District 3 item, Supervisor Spitzer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Beaver, do I see you? Do you mind coming up? I have a question for you. Your name's on the ASR, and I had asked, this is an ongoing issue, and we've renewed it periodically as required by law. But one of the issues I raised months ago was the assessment of the condition of some of our aging jail infrastructures, specifically the Central Men's Jail and Theo Lacey, because as we have these emergency repairs, obviously they're very more costly and they disrupt. And what is the status of the report to the board about the ongoing, let's call it super proactive assessment of the aging infrastructure so that we don't find ourselves in this kind of mess?
Thank you, sir. So Robert Beaver, Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Supervisor Spitzer. Specifically, if I may, you had specifically brought up on the Theo Lacey facility emergency that we had regarding the plumbing issue. You know, are we doing anything on the neighboring mod, which is pretty much the exact same construction period, would generally have the same types of problems, and that is actually, that work has already started. So we're constantly looking at these opportunities, if the population in our system allows us to do so, to clear out these areas and address these issues when we can.
So, Ms. Aguirre, we have our strategic financial plan later on in the agenda. That whole issue, is that being addressed in the strategic financial plan? Is the Sheriff's Department presenting CEO's office with these numbers about our jails? I don't know what's chicken or egg on the routine maintenance, because we're getting these situations where something substantial is failing, like the plumbing and then elevators and things like that. Like we just approved the escalator, you know, that's just ongoing maintenance for the existing entity, whatever it is. But in this case, I was just concerned that we have a full assessment of the aging infrastructure specifically, and then that there's a number that's earmarked in the strategic financial plan to let us know what the costs are going to be ongoing, because these situations keep arising and they're not routine. They're extraordinary. See? So We've now had 2 at that same facility, both plumbing and now elevator. So something's happening, and anytime you have a quote-unquote emergency in a jail, it's not a good thing, because it really means it disrupts the flow of the ability to operate. That is a maximum security jail facility in the city of Orange.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Are you moving the item?
Yes, I move it.
Second.
Any opposition? That item passes.